Hello everybody, it is Jay here. How we all doing? You can see the mic again. This is basically a backup video, so if for whatever reason I'm not able to upload a video while I am in Spain, I will be putting this video up instead as a backup, so that if something happens and it means I'm not able to upload a video that day, I have one pre-recorded that I can use instead. Okay, let's go. So today I'm going to be talking about safe spaces. I intended to make this video a long while ago and it just didn't happen for whatever reason, so we're going to do it now. I love reusing video ideas. So basically, for those of you who don't know, a safe space is basically a space that is safe for LGBT people. But the definition has kind of expanded into just being a safe space for people from a minority group. For example, a safe space for people of color, a safe space for people with disabilities, a safe space for mentally ill people, etc., etc. Just having a safe space where people from a minority group can talk to each other about discrimination, about common issues that they've experienced, about common experiences, be friends, support each other. It's a positive thing to have. Safe spaces have a positive effect on people, and that's a good thing. A lot of people criticize safe spaces because the world is not a safe space. And I agree with that statement. The world is not a safe space, but that's why we have safe spaces. Because in essence, the world can never be a safe space. Because the majority of safe spaces function in such a way that the safe space only allows people from that minority group. And that's part of the reason why it's a safe space. Because it basically means that you don't have the insecurity of... A lot of people will feel more comfortable with people from the same minority group as them, especially if they've experienced some like traumatic negative experiences with people outside of their minority group. Part of the whole reason why safe spaces work so well is because you are able to share common experiences with people from your group, and if the other people in the group aren't from that minority group, if the other people in your safe space aren't from that minority group, then you don't get that effect. And that's kind of sad, because that's why you entered the safe space. I think the reason why we have safe spaces is purely because the world can never be a safe space. You can only be safer, but safe spaces function to make the world around it a better place, not just to protect people in the space. There are issues with safe spaces though, and I'm gonna go through some of the issues that I have with safe spaces. So first of all, my first issue with safe spaces is trans-specific safe spaces. Ireland is good. We have a lot of trans safe spaces at the moment. We have a very large trans community at the moment, and it's great. I really like that, and it's really good that we have a lot of safe space. But I know that like in the past, and in some more rural areas, one of the issues that people face are that the safe spaces for LGBT people are not inclusive of trans people, or are not particularly safe for trans people, and that's very sad. And even at that, sometimes like the LGBT spaces that are safe spaces for all LGBT young people can be what's the word? They can gloss over trans issues, and that's like the nature of the group, because they're trying to cover the entire LGBT community, which is why I firmly believe in trans-specific safe spaces. I do think that having trans-specific safe spaces is good, because there are things that trans people experience that other LGBT cis people don't experience, and that's important. Their experiences around transitioning, about getting your gender legally recognized, about going through all that kind of process, and like in essence changing a very fundamental thing of who you are to the eyes of everyone that cis queer people don't go through. And that's why I think that specific trans spaces are really important. Especially, I consider them especially important for me as a straight trans person, because I don't feel comfortable taking up space in LGBTQ general spaces. Even though I am trans, I don't feel like I should be taking up space in spaces that are primarily for people who are cis and queer, not just for people who are trans and straight. You feel me? I also think that having youth spaces is really important. Again, Dublin does quite well with youth spaces. The country, Ireland, does quite well with youth spaces for LGBT people. The only qualm that I have with Ireland's ability to support LGBT young people, specifically trans young people, is that the lower age limit for the majority of the groups that are for trans young people is 14. And I know that there are people in this country who identify as trans and they are under 14. And they could do with having trans friends. That, like, even just knowing that the other person with you is trans does change the tone of your relationship and does have this extra level of comfort that you wouldn't necessarily have with the cis person you just met. And I think that that's important, that younger trans people get to experience that, not just the people over the age of 14, not just the adults, Like, it's hard to be a trans teenager. I can only imagine how hard it is for trans children to cope with being the only trans person. Moving slightly onwards, sober spaces for LGBT people are so fucking important. And clean spaces for LGBT people are so important because, for those of you who don't know, the LGBT community has a very high rate of addiction and alcoholism and smoking. All like addictive substances that are harmful to your health when binged upon, and like that's an issue that the LGBT community needs to tackle. But the first step in tackling that is not just making it so that these people can quit the substances that they are on, but making sure that there are spaces for LGBT people that there are spaces for LGBT people that they can go to that won't be triggering. I know that a lot of the adult LGBT spaces in this world are bars, ergo there's a lot of fucking booze, and therefore that can be very harmful for somebody who's a recovering alcoholic. I know that like smoking is less something that you can deal with. That's more so making sure that your friends know that you're quitting and encouraging them not to smoke around you so that you don't feel like compelled to smoke. And then with drugs, I know that the majority of drugs that would be abused are illegal, and therefore there aren't really like safe spaces that encourage drug use, but the drinking one for certain is a big deal. And last but not least, non-sexual spaces. See, the thing is about gay bars and stuff is that quite often they are specifically for the purpose of hookups and meeting up with people. They're not always platonic situations. They are quite often very sexual situations. And for asexual queer people, not always going to be a good move. I know that not all asexual people are like sex repulsed, but a lot of asexual people wouldn't be looking for sex and wouldn't be looking for a sexual relationship. And a lot of these spaces are very sexual, even in just the way they are. There's a lot of people naked. There's a lot of people shirtless. There's a lot of people being very provocative, and that would make a lot of people uncomfortable. Having non-sexual and sober spaces also ties into having youth safe spaces. Belong to allow for people from 14 up until they turn 24, so they do have adults in this space, and I think that's good. There are problems with that, but I do think that that's good because it means that those younger adults have access to a non-sexual sober space. And another issue with the non-sexual spaces is hello, I'm a tran and I'm straight. So if I go to a gay club, I'm not going there for the purpose of meeting up with another man. There aren't really exactly trans bars. Gonna put that out there. And if there were, we would have a lot of problems with the chasers. So trans bars don't really exist in the same way that like the majority of bars are gay bars. They're not like lesbian bars, they're not bisexual bars, they're not trans bars. It's just that they're gay bars. So another reason why non-sexual spaces are important is because, newsflash, there are actually straight people in the LGBT community. As much as you don't want them to be there, they exist, and there are people who aren't seeking sexual relationships. Sober spaces are important because there are people who are recovering alcoholics. Youth spaces are important because there are young queer people in this world, especially people who are pre-teens when it comes to trans people especially. And it's really good to have trans-specific safe spaces because, cis LGBT plus people can't always sympathize with the trans experience. So yes, thank you for watching. Thanks for listening. I love this new microphone. If you like this video, please click the like button down here, the subscribe button over here. The comment box is open for any questions you have about any. Oh, this went to my chin. Any questions you have about any opinions I have expressed. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.